Welcome to the Ambitious Bookkeeper Podcast.
In today's video, I'm going to talk about why I love Xero. I actually recorded an entire episode about this basically at the very beginning of my podcast. And now that I'm on YouTube and years have gone by, and I still get asked the same question, I figured it was time to refresh this content and talk about some of the new features that Xero has. I'm also linking some videos here that actually walk you through those features. And today is mostly just going to be me talking about what I love about Xero. So whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening in your car, on your podcast app, you're in the right place. So first and foremost, if you don't know who I am, I'm Serena. I am the founder and mentor at the Ambitious Bookkeeper, where I mentor and coach other bookkeepers and accountants in starting their own virtual bookkeeping business. And I also have been running a virtual accounting firm for online businesses for the past 8 years. And it's pretty obvious if you come to my channel that I am a Xero enthusiast. This video is not sponsored by Xero. However, if you are an accountant or a bookkeeper or even a small business owner and you're interested in using Xero, please do me a favor and click the link in the description of the video or below the show notes where you're listening to this, because that is an affiliate link and I really do appreciate you using my link if you're going to sign up for Xero. Now, let's get into all the reasons why I love Xero. And it's really funny whenever I talk about this and share stuff like this in the accounting world, there's always somebody who's like, I hate Xero because XYZ. And I really tried to love it, but I can't. And that's okay. It's not for everybody, just like QBO isn't for everybody, just like I'm not for everybody. But I'm going to talk about some of the reasons that I love Xero. I've actually been compiling this list all day because every time I would go do something, I'd think of something else. And I was like, okay, I really do need to write all of these down. I've got my handy dandy notepad so that I don't forget anything. And most likely I will have forgotten something, but I'm going to walk through several different areas of why I love Xero. If applicable, we might have some graphics pop up on the screen here, but for the most part, I'm just going to walk you through it. Number one is the security. I came from a corporate environment, and there's certain things that you should not be able to do in an accounting software that you can do in other softwares, and I will name names. like Intuit's products. Xero has a really good audit trail, meaning anytime someone performs an action in the software, it logs that transaction and who did it and what time. That's an audit trail. Well, in other softwares like QBO, you can actually delete transactions. And once you delete a transaction, poof, the audit trail is gone. So you can't even see who deleted the transaction. As you can imagine, deleting transactions can cause a disaster. It can cause you to not know what happened with transactions. And I've spoken with ex-IRS auditors, and of all of the bookkeeping and systems that they've audited, QBO is usually the worst because of this feature alone, that you have the ability to delete transactions, and sometimes it's on accident and you don't realize you're going to do it. But I'm an accountant and I've gone in and I have screwed up a QBO file. So if I can screw it up, I know that a small business owner can too as well. And so that leads me into the data integrity that Xero has, because they have their software locked down in certain ways that don't allow you to delete transactions. You have to void something once it's already posted. That just has higher data integrity. They also have the ability to customize user roles and permissions. So there are certain things you can allow somebody to just view reports only and not action anything in the software, which is great for some of our business owners who probably shouldn't be in Xero or any accounting software, but they want to be able to run reports. This allows them to do that, to see what's going on, but not make any changes. You can also invite people in that only have access to create and view invoices, or only have access to do accounts payable or look at bills. And then you can invite other accountants in that have advisor role permissions. So there's a lot of different permission levels that you can create and use within Xero that makes it a lot safer of an environment and higher security. I already talked about system controls. That was kind of like the voiding transactions versus deleting them. One of the other system controls that they have in place is that you can't create a transaction without a contact or a vendor. So you cannot create an invoice or you cannot create a bill without a vendor name in there. In a system like QBO, you can actually create transactions without vendor names. And we migrate all of our clients to Xero for free. And we've found that that's usually one of the biggest issues when we're cleaning up a file is having to assign a vendor name on every single transaction because the last bookkeeper maybe was lazy. Also, QBO doesn't alert you that you forgot to put in a vendor name. It'll just let you post a transaction. All sorts of stuff like that. That's one of the things we really like. You have to have a contact name for every transaction, unless it's a journal entry. So those are some of the security features that I really love. Lastly, it was built for the cloud. QBO started out as a desktop software. Xero has always been on the cloud. It was born on the cloud. They built it for the cloud. From day one, they have designed their system to function on the cloud and be top-level security. They also vet their app partners extensively. Apparently, it's pretty hard to become a partner like an integrated app with Xero. And there's still other things that they don't allow apps to do that you can do with other apps connected to QBO, where you can actually make changes to the QBO file through another app. You can't do that in Xero. You have to do everything actually through Xero, which that's one of the features that a lot of bookkeepers don't like because they want to be able to have another app that sits on top of the software that they can, change things around in. And I get why it's not a thing, and I also get why people want to be able to do that. I see both sides. But I appreciate having data integrity and not having a mess of books on my hands. Okay, my number 2 favorite feature and why I really love Xero and why we are 100% Xero firm is the reporting. And this kind of ties into efficiency, which I'm going to talk about in a minute as well. With the way that the reporting structure is built in Xero, no matter what each client's chart of accounts looks like all the different categories they have, we can create the same reports that can get run down in every single client without recreating it within each client. And so Xero uses a report mapping code thing that allows us to create a standard set of reports from the firm level and then run it within each client file. And that cuts down on so much time because when I was working in QBO and running reports for clients, I have to design that same reporting package within each client file. And you can imagine if you have 20 clients, that's a lot of custom report creation. And also the way they export doesn't have all the columns like percentages and things that I want on my reports when I give them to clients. And in Xero, we can customize that, build it into the reports, and then run it on every client without having to export it to Excel, put in the columns and the percentages. And that's, again, room for more error and issues with formulas. The other really cool thing that is similar to reporting, but is something that we have access on the partner level in Xero HQ, if you're an accountant partner, you have access to be able to create a custom chart of accounts and save it into HQ so that when you create a new client, if you work with clients across one industry and you're niche down and you have a specific chart of accounts that you want to give to each client, you can just select it, you import it in there, and then you just select it when you're creating a new file, and boom, your chart of accounts is there for the new client without you having to use the basic chart of accounts that comes canned in QBO and then change all the accounts that you don't like and remove the accounts you don't want and add different accounts. It just creates, again, so much more efficiency. One of the other things that has to do with reporting is the ability to toggle between true cash basis and true accrual basis in Xero. And that's because in QBO, when you book a journal entry, and this, if you're a business owner, this is probably going to go way over your head. But if you're an accountant, you know what I'm talking about. When you book a journal entry, In QBO, it's going to show up on all your reports, whether you run a cash basis or accrual basis. In Xero, you get to decide if you want that journal entry to show up on cash basis reports. So effectively, if you're booking accruals, you don't want those journal entries showing up on cash basis reports, but you want to be able to have accurate cash basis reports. A lot of small businesses want to see how much cash actually came in versus went out in a month. So it's really easy to toggle between the two. The other aspect, kind of in line with that, is the cash flow statement that is built into Xero is the direct method. And in QBO, it's the indirect method. The indirect method and the direct method come to the same conclusion, but the way it looks is really confusing to try to explain to a non-accountant. To explain the indirect cash flow statement is rather difficult. But in Xero, it's pretty straightforward. As long as you have your chart of accounts mapped correctly, you can very easily explain what's going on in the cash flow statement. All right, third area of why I love Xero. It was built with advisors and small business owners in mind. And what I mean by that, as a partner, we're considered advisors in the Xero world. And Xero actually was developed in Australia, I believe. I'm pretty sure it was Australia, not the UK. One of the two, but either way, Xero has been very popular in pretty much the rest of the world other than the US. And the way that they handle things in Australia and the UK, people don't start businesses and wait to hire an accountant. They hire an accountant and then they start businesses. So they have a relationship with an accountant from day one. I really wish the US operated this way, but they don't. It's just the way they have their regulations set up there. It's like you have to have an accountant to be able to run a business. And here it's a little bit backwards, but because that business culture existed where this program was originally developed, it was built with the advisor and the small business owner in mind, where they were going to be partnering together. So with that, Xero has amazing customer support, and they don't compete with us like QBO does. QBO has their own QuickBooks Live, a team of bookkeepers that they are constantly pushing QBO users, business owners, to opt into that service rather than working with an accountant. And so a lot of accountants feel a little bit jaded in that regard because they feel like QBO is competing with them. And they really shouldn't be. They should be supporting us bookkeepers and accountants because we are the ones that bring them clients and set them up on their software. So Xero really has that down pretty well. Another component of having it being built with advisors in mind is, like I said, the customer support is amazing. I usually get a response and get things resolved within 24 hours without having to be on the phone and on hold and talking to a million people that don't know what they're doing. I've never had to escalate my ticket to someone higher that could help me. Whoever was first to try to help me has usually resolved it. And they're usually pretty minor issues. There's also a find and recode tool, which kind of leads me into the fourth area of efficiency. And QBO has a similar tool. They have like an accountant's toolbox where it's called the reclassify tool. Xero has something similar. It's called find and recode. It's more robust. You can filter on date ranges, on accounts, on contact names, and you can recode not only where it was categorized, but you can recode who the contact was if you accidentally created a bunch of transactions with the wrong vendor name or something like that. It's a little more flexible than the reclassify tool in QBO. Something else that makes Xero more efficient for us is it has a very clean, simple, and beautiful interface, in my opinion. Others might say that it's really basic and boring or like dated. They have updated their interface over the last year or so, and to me, it looks modern. I don't know. I would rather log into something that looks clean and simple than something that is overwhelming and every time I log in, it looks different. trying not to make this a QBO bash session, but I'm just giving you the comparisons. When I log into QBO, I get overwhelmed. I get frustrated because I can't find things that I used to know where they are. There's so much in there that I have to sift through, and I really only need to get to like one or two different places in the platform. But there's so much extra stuff in there that it's if it's overwhelming for an accountant, it's got to be overwhelming for business owners. And so if you're a business owner watching this and you feel that way when you log into QBO, you're not alone. And there's a better option. So the clean and simple user interface, and it's modern. If you're like a designer or someone who has a visual eye for things, I think you're going to love Xero. So definitely check out some of my other videos where I actually demo some things. Another efficiency tool that we have access to in Xero, and it's available on every plan, every business plan. There's partner-only plans where I'll talk about that in a different video, but if you're a business owner, there's 3 plans that you can be on: early, growing, or established. And on all 3 of those plans, you have access to a tool called cash coding. So when you are working on coding all of your bank transactions, if you have Stripe connected, for example, or PayPal, and you have a lot of the same transactions coming in, you can actually just go to the cash coding tab and mass code hundreds of transactions at once. And so that's one feature that has enabled us to offer our clients, instead of charging by transaction volume and things like that, because of the nature of a lot of our clients' businesses, they have launches. And so there's some months where there's thousands of transactions, and then there's some months when there's only 100. And so we don't want to penalize and fluctuate the pricing every time they launch. And so we've been able to just say, in those situations, because it's all pretty much the same transaction, we have a tool that makes us really efficient. So we're not going to upcharge you for increased volume one month. So the cash coding, there's also bank rules that you can set up. And now we have access in beta, when this video goes live, to auto bank reconciliation, which is an AI feature in Xero. And I have another video I will link here or at the end of this video that I walk through that so you can see how that works. Another efficiency tool is that I mentioned Stripe a moment ago. This is one of the big reasons why we love Xero for our clients, especially because a lot of our clients, most of our clients, use Stripe and PayPal as payment processors. In QBO, you can connect PayPal, but Stripe, you have to use a third-party app to get that to integrate, and it costs extra money. In Xero, it connects just like a bank account. Direct feed, all the transactions with the descriptions and everything feeds right in. And so we can create bank rules and reconcile your payment processors really easily. There's also direct feeds with some of the bigger banks like Wells Fargo. And then, of course, they have a direct feed with Relay, which I love Relay. It's an online bank. And over the 8 years that I've been banking with Relay, I've only seen their bank feeds break maybe once or twice, which is amazing. Because when you look at banks like American Express or even Wells Fargo that do have direct feeds with Xero, those tend to break and have to be reconnected fairly often. And lastly, with efficiency, we have access to a tool that is owned by Xero. It started out as a separate program. It's still pretty much separate, but it's called HubDoc, and that's what we use to organize receipts and invoices, and we can sync those into Xero and attach them to each transaction. And that way, when we're drilling down on things, we can see what the source document actually was. Super cool. Number 5 are some features that Xero has embedded or included, whereby other programs, such as QBO, actually charge for. Number 1 is the budget feature. In every plan, early, growing, or established, in Xero, you have access to the budgeting feature. And I think that's pretty cool. It's also really easy to use. We love it. We use it for our CFO clients. And when we create a budget with them, we can, I do it all in Excel using the template that comes out of Xero. And then I import it back into Xero once we've fleshed out how we want the budget to look and modeled things out. And then every month we can run the report of actuals versus budget and see where we're at. So it makes that process a lot more efficient. Like I said, the Stripe integration is direct and free. With Xero in QBO, you have to pay for a third-party app to integrate Stripe as a bank account. We also have access to some visual reports, and last but not least, unlimited users on every plan. And that's not something that happens with QBO. So you can invite somebody to do your invoicing. You can invite somebody to do your AP. You can invite someone in to just handle payroll. You can invite 5 accountants if you want to. And you can have multiple people within your organization with access to Xero, if that makes sense for you, at different permission levels like we talked about, so the controls are in place. And you don't have to worry about paying for another seat. I personally think that's a game changer right there. Number 6 are invoicing features that I really love about Xero that just makes it easier to get paid and accept payments and make you look professional. You can customize your branding on your invoice. And not only that, you can actually create multiple brands within one file. So say you have like a trademark of, I don't know, something in your business that you invoice your clients for, and then you have like this other sub brand or subdivision, but you're under the same LLC and you want a different logo on the invoice, you can create multiple different invoice templates within Xero and decide which brand you're going to invoice from. Makes it really cool. You can also connect multiple payment processors. You can connect Stripe, you can connect PayPal. We use Go Cardless as an option for ACH, and you can set up auto payments in there as well. Within the invoicing feature, it can auto calculate sales tax. So if you're in an area where you should be charging your customers sales tax, I highly recommend turning on that auto lookup feature. I will say, I believe in the phone app, that feature doesn't work yet when you're invoicing from the app. So if you do need to charge sales tax, you can start the invoice on the app, but you're going to have to finish it on the desktop to get the sales tax to calculate. You can set up invoice reminders. You can do this in QBO too. However, there's more customization in Xero. You can set up as many different types of reminders as you want. You can send reminders leading up to the due date. You can send reminders once the due date has passed, all sorts of cool stuff like that. And you can customize the wording in each and every one and make them completely different if you want. And then, like I said, you can set up auto pay, have your customers save their credit card information and check a box to let you auto charge them. Lastly, I will talk about the mobile app. I briefly talked about it when it comes to the invoicing. Another feature that the mobile app has is tap to pay. So you can accept people's cards on your phone without a credit card swipey thingy and being charged extra. So I think that's pretty much it. Also in the mobile app, you can look at your net profit year to date, prior year. You can look at your revenue. You can look at your expenses. You can do a lot from your app. There's often times when I'm like laying in bed stressing about money and I'm like, what is my profit so far this year? And you can see your bank balances when they're all connected to the feeds. You can log in there and see everything in one place. So that's some pretty cool features about the app. You can also do quotes and you can accept people's quotes and convert it right into an invoice, which makes that process really seamless. Lastly, I'm going to talk about a couple things and objections that I get when avid QBO users try to come to the bright side, the beautiful side of business. And one of them is that they can't book journal entries to cash accounts or bank accounts in Xero. And while I understand the sentiment, I don't believe you should really be booking journal entries to a bank account if you're doing accurate bookkeeping. You can still adjust things on the bank account if you so need to, and you just have to know which direction you should be going, whether it's a spend money or a receive money. You book it, you mark it reconciled, you move on. It's not that hard. It's basically the same effort as it takes to do a journal entry. I don't know why people gripe about that, but what are you going to do? So with that, It can make it a little more difficult if you need to do like a payroll clearing account or a sales clearing account to get some stuff done. But yeah, that's one of the big gripes. One of the other big gripes that I've heard in the past, which is no longer an issue, much to my chagrin, is the way that you actually did the reconciling the bank account step. Previously in Xero, you could just categorize all the bank feeds and, accept every transaction that came through the bank feeds. And that was actually the reconciliation process. You would then just run a report comparing what you just did with what's on the bank statement instead of doing a whole separate tick and tie process that you do in QuickBooks. Well, last year, they unveiled that they were implementing a reconcile period process. And while we have implemented that in our firm, I'm actually not a huge fan because it adds another step to our process and makes things a little bit more complex that they didn't need to. But I get that they had to please the QBO users, so it's a little compromise. But yeah, so that feature now exists for any of you who had that big gripe. Now you get a whole separate process and a window that you can go to after you've already accepted all the bank transactions to just make sure that the bank transactions you accepted are there. All right. So those are some of the big reasons, most of the reasons why I love Xero. And I'm loving it more and more every time they do updates, which, by the way, they do updates a lot, but nothing huge ever changes except this year they did change the layout of the dashboard and the interface, but it's actually better now. It's more visually appealing. There's better information on the dashboard when you log in, and I'm all for it. So if you are ready to come on over to the beautiful side of business with Xero, I still like their old slogan where their old slogan was like beautiful business. Now it's like supercharge your business. I don't know. I'm still a fan of the old slogan, so I'm going to stick with it. But if you're ready to come over to the beautiful side of business, check out the links to join Xero in the comments or in the description below the video or the show notes where you're listening. And I super appreciate you using my affiliate link. If you are an accountant and you want to become a partner, there is a process for that. That's another gripe of people, that they have to get on a call with a partner advisor. And I'm okay with it because they also vet their accounting partners. They want to make sure that you actually are an accountant, you are trying to grow a business, and you are trying to help clients, and you have integrity. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And then you get a partner advisor in your corner helping you grow your business. Oh, one last little thing too is, as a Xero partner, you get access to marketing funds. Maybe I should submit this for marketing funds. We'll see. All right, we'll catch you on the flip side.
Thank you to everyone who helps make this podcast possible. Content and interviews are produced by me, Serena Shoup. Our intro and outro music is written and performed by my brother, Ian Gilliam. Editing is also by Ian using his awesome sound engineering skills along with Descript software. Hosting and publishing is by Buzzsprout. And you can check out the show notes for links to all of these amazing resources and resources mentioned in the episode.
Be ambitious.